In 10 years, if he's kind of still in the classroom, I'm gonna be like, what are you doing? Like, you need to like be moving up in these ranks to like, because I could see him in the future influencing a system. And I think that's where like systemic change needs to happen. Um,
So living on the reservation as Native Americans, Navajo, is very difficult. We have to travel farther to get our groceries. We can't just drive down the street just to get anything. We have to plan out our trip strategically. I have to drive 2 hours every week just to get the necessities I need. And anyone I've ever met has told me that this life is hard and our resources are very limited. I mean, a lot of our people don't have running water, they don't have electricity, and these resources are very foreign to us. And Jacob was a perfect candidate, and he fell into that category of being consumed with alcoholism, depression, that hurt and pain that I see every day in a lot of these individuals, especially being a high school teacher. And Jacob has always wanted to live off the res because this life is very hard. It's very hard.
Yat Asia Lilia Yenshia Ado Rema New Mexico den Nasha Ado Clan Bahajil Neshe Yat Hotokojan Slon had soy Bashishi Ado na Kri Mexico den E Shichi Hazlin Ilketan Ado Tenaha Bethni E Dashin Nale Hot son and Shle. I was a single mother, and then I had 4 children, and Jacob was my third child. I remember, I had to find a sitter for him. His grandma took care of him for me, and I hired other sitters to watch him. At the time I was living in Gallup in the mobile home with my children, and my mother lived with us too, to help me with my 3 kids. Jacob was the most mischievous child. Even his grandma watching him, he did some things that were kind of scary and scared his grandma to death. And also at school, he did well in school. And there was a time when we had to move back to Rama because I got ill, and we had to move back to the reservation, and those were the times that Jacob was in the Rama Elementary School, and one time he got sent home with a note on his report card saying that he was the clown, the class clown, and all the kids would be. He had the attention of the kids instead of the teacher all the time. So I remember I had to scold him for that. He was always, no matter how hard it was, he was persistent, never gave up on anything he did. And I was very grateful for him. You know, whatever he set out to do, he always accomplished it, and he made me proud. He never gave up on anything. He was always an artist. Him and his brother Gary, his older brother, it was just natural for him to just sketch up something real easy, like, you know, it just was to the exact thing that they drew, you know, anything they imagined. It's very outgoing, and he knew how to rile up the crowd, the audience, or the people that attended the games. And then they had a talent show or something that happened in the school where he wanted to be the Navajo president that year. And they said he really put, you know, the kids, they were all excited because the school told everyone that the Navajo president was coming to visit the school, and everybody was respectful, quiet. He was ready to come in and play that part as the Navajo president. And the teachers, I remember, commented to me that he did really good in imitating who the president was. And they just had so much fun with that year, and that was the best year they had, just because of Jacob's talent and just being out there, outgoing, making the students, you know, having fun and just enjoying school, I guess. And he wants to make a difference in people's lives, and even children, and just people. He loves helping people. I like that about Jacob, that he's a good adult now. You know, he's grown up to be a wise, respectable person. He had the chance to come back to the local high school to talk to the kids, and it seemed like the kids really enjoyed him when he spoke to them. And I'm proud of him for all the things he's done. And then he comes back to visit and help people here on the reservation. And then now he's living on another area of the reservation. He's doing well. He's helping people out there. He's not just sitting back, like looking for things to happen for him, but he's out there to make things happen. And that's what makes me very proud of him. And I just sit back and keep him in my prayers all the time. His father and I really appreciate what he's doing out there to make a difference.
I was once told that Native Americans were one of the most caring, generous, loving individuals out there. And we were told that we were naive. And that mindset was completely disrupted by Western culture. And we had to relearn everything. And we're still trying to do that with as much loving and caring people that we are. We're just as hurt. We're just as in pain. And now that Jacob's back here on the res, he's realizing that he has to face his challenges, his trauma, his hurt, his pain with this, again, this difficult life that we have on the reservation.
These types of things is what really honed me and started me on this journey again. It felt like I was starting from level 1 of becoming someone. And then from there, I got in touch with Multicultural Affairs, and Deanna Cordova really invested in me because I got into trouble later on and I got kicked out of the dorm. So I was pretty much living out of my pickup truck for a couple of months. But one of the most extraordinary things happened was she told me to come in and she said, "What happened?" And I always figured I'd just always be honest, or at least try my hardest to always be honest with someone, especially someone who's invested in me. I told her what had happened, and I got kicked out of the dorms. I got in trouble. She told me to close the door, and I told her that I wanted to quit school for a year and go to work, and I don't think this is for me. She told me to close the door, and she said, "If you quit now, you're not going to come back, and it's going to be difficult for you to ever come back." And I told her I was living out of my pickup truck and all these things, and she said, she grabbed her purse and she said, "Don't tell anyone I'm doing this." But she gave me $20 and she said, "Here, take this and go buy whatever you need. Go get gas, food, whatever you want now." And I was trying to tell her I didn't want it, but she said, "Take it." So I stood up and I was going to get it, and she held on to it and she said, "Or you hold on to this $20, you suffer for a little longer and you double it, and you somehow make it out of that pickup truck and get yourself an apartment. But you stay in school and you stick with me and you keep working and you do what you got to do until you make it out of where you're at to your situation." And almost 10 years later, I still have that $20 bill to this day. I never spent it. I remember going into my pickup truck that evening, and I just got done with classes, and I felt so low as I go back to this park that was near the university, and I was sitting there, and I remembered that $20 bill, and I took it out, and I was so excited, and I was all hungry, and I needed gas, because sometimes I would just drive around all night. But I remember putting it back in my pocket, back in my wallet, and I remember just praying, and I remember thinking, I hope she's right. So 2 weeks later of just sneaking in, trying to get showers and sleeping whenever I could, I was able to get a roommate and get an apartment. And that was my first lesson of keeping accountable and staying and persevering through those tough times. I wasn't a classical trained painter. That's not what I went to school for. I was a communicator, but painting was just something, and art was something I was learning and growing in. And I saw this abandoned building, and I asked a bunch of local people about it. And they said, "Oh, the so-and-so owns it." So I talked to, I guess, someone who was overseeing it. And I asked if I could do a mural on it. And at that time I was by myself, and sometimes Pertels can get a little lonely, or there's not much to do. So I was proactive in that. So I parked my little Chevy Colorado next to the wall, used it as a ladder, and I painted a hummingbird, and I put the words faith beside it. And I didn't tell anyone that I did that. I don't even think I signed it. And I left. So you fast forward maybe even 6 months, it's almost closer to a year, and people are writing articles about it. People are talking about it. People are wondering who the artist was. And at that time, I had a roommate, and she says, "I know who did that." And she, of course, told, and it's a small town, so news traveled fast, and people began to know who I was after that hummingbird and the words faith. And I think one of the things that really made me feel great, and I understood how powerful art was, is there was an individual that was a little girl that used to live in that house. She was a grown woman when she reached out to me, but she said she was abused by her father in that house. And whenever she would come home, she didn't like looking that way when she drove by that building. And she said she drove by one day, she saw those words in that hummingbird, and she said it healed her. She said it was something she saw, and she felt forgiveness for what had happened in her past. When I was younger, I wanted to be this big famous time artist, But when you're older and having some experience, I think it's more of wanting to share it with the world and wanting other people to be at their best too in this life. And with the jewelry and things of that nature, I always get the question of what do you like more, paintings or silversmithing? And silversmithing was very recent, probably like 5 years ago I learned, but I've been doing consistently probably for 3 years. And I would say paintings are more of novels for me. So with the paintings, it's one of those things that did create attention and a name for myself in the art world and in communities. So it's something I do respect very much. So I want to continue to keep that as innovative and fresh as possible. I'm finding out with art, it's way more fulfilling if you're able to heal yourself as a person and be honest. Because if you're honest with yourself and you're more free and you're healed, you're able to create something beautiful. You're able to really be more in touch with yourself, more in touch with your story.
I think there's a lot of things that Jacob can do in the future. I think he's got that ability to challenge life and to initiative to change.
I'm gonna need your help singing this song. Is that in tune, guys? Sounds tune, yeah. This song I'm about to sing is probably one of the most sacred songs. It's a song sung before every battle, and you all should know it, especially my Native Americans in here. Where are all my natives at? Okay, but you guys should know the words. So sing along if you can. I promise this is gonna be good. Ready?